definitely perform, but it's always good to feel it and then give a response about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you have been a successful captain. Would you say versatility has a key role to play in that, to be a good captain?
Well, I think it's a very important thing, but you can't really stop something with one word. So I've always felt adaptability is a key factor, and at the same time, what are the different kind of jobs that you can fulfill, and I think most of you are familiar with cricket, and we always crib about, oh, we don't have enough all-rounders. And what are all-rounders actually? There are people who can who can bat, who can bowl, who can field, and all of that. So definitely when it comes to if it has to spill out of the cricketing field, I feel it's applicable everywhere. If you talk about cars, most of us talk about SUVs or different vehicles, but actually how many of us actually take it off-road? If we talk about percentage, if 100 people are buying SUVs, actually 99 of them, they don't really take it off-roading. But still, it's the aspect that is important. It's the aspect that they want, the space. They may use it once in 365 days, but they want the space. They want enough cargo space for the full family stuff to fit in, to move around freely, reliability and all of that. So it's an important thing when it comes to a car or a team, but I won't say it's the only thing, that is the most important one.
Now, do you go off-roading? Do you have a...
Well, I do, because Ranchi, it's a plateau, so we have enough places where we can go off-roading, but not hardcore off-roading, because if you get stuck, then it's a trouble. So you don't really want to get stuck. You want to go off-roading, but it shouldn't be as if, it's too demanding and it's putting too much pressure on the car and the driving skill. More often than not, it's not the car that lets you down, it's actually the driver, because they don't have much experience. They just dive in and then they realize, it's too much. They've taken a bigger bite than what they can chew.
Right. Now, I heard earlier that the first car you bought was a Mercedes Benz. Tell us more about that.
It's a memory. It's not a very fond memory, not because of the car, but it was a GLS 63 AMG. One of my friend in Australia had it, so I came back and I ordered one from the UK. Yes, that was my first car. I've always been a G-Wagon fan, but with the GLS 63, it had the luxury and the performance, so it really pulled me over.
Now, is there another Mercedes-Benz car that you're eyeing next?
It's a G-Wagon, very plain and simple. If you talk about Mercedes, G-Wagon is one car that always comes to your mind. Yes, you have the Maybachs and everything, you have some of the best cars, but being an SUV lover, it's very difficult, if a G-Wagon is parked there, I'm not taking a step away from it and looking at something else, but it's a personal liking. And one of the reason, if you see, it's one of the most produced cars. It has if I'm not wrong, the production line runs on from when it started, and I feel that in itself says a lot about the car. And hopefully till they produce petrol engine cars, they'll keep producing it, and definitely there'll be an electric version, but electric version is still different. So a G-Wagon with a proper petrol head, a V8, is what is needed.
Okay, all right. Now we're going to actually open up the audience for some questions.
Hi, Mahi. I want to ask, how long had you been dreaming to buy a Mercedes before you actually bought it?
Well, growing up, if you see, I was born in 81. I don't know how many people were born in 81, but growing up, the car that most of us wanted was a Mercedes, because Mercedes dominated that full era. And then later on, the other car makers also started flowing in. They had their own versions of cars and everything, but somehow I always been, my heart has always been towards Mercedes. Then I was traveling a lot, so there were other cars that were planned, and I realized that most of the cars that are in my garage have not even done 5,000 kilometers in 7-8 years. So I was like, we need to take it slow. Then Ziva was born. So after 2 years, he started going to school, and that was the first time we actually got a Mercedes. It's not a very big one, so the roads are a bit narrow to the school, and she considers it her car. So often when I'm taking it to the stadium, you're like, Daddy, why are you taking my car? So actually it's strange, to answer your daughter as to why you're sharing her car. And a lot of times she refuses to take some other car. I don't know the reason behind it. Maybe because 95% of the time she travels in that car, and most of her traveling is to the school and from the school. So very close. But now I'm getting something for myself at some point of time. And I'm hoping that, I'm not playing a lot of international cricket, so I'll get some time to use the car, so that I can do justice. Otherwise it becomes the same. You have cars in the garage, but you're not actually using it, because one of my daily trips is actually in a motorcycle. If I don't have a kit bag with me, I ride my motorcycle. So evening, if I'm going to the gym or if I'm going for practice with kit bag, that's the time the car comes in. So I'm hoping I get enough time, to drive a car.
Mr. Dhoni, looking at the electric versus the diesel petrol versions, you said you will like to drive the electric version for a period of time before you can judge that electrical is as good as petrol and diesel. The whole world is going towards the electrical, and we all know the world is, there are timelines 2030, 2035 that most of the world is going to be taken over by the electrical vehicles. So, what makes you feel that electrical vehicle, the drivability or all the components of driving, you are a SUV lover, what makes you think SUV of electric versus petrol and diesel? Your preliminary experience, how do you think about it?
Well, the answer is very simple, because if you're a motorhead, engine is something that is very important, because it gives you a feel about the vehicle. When it comes to the interiors and everything, you can put in the best of interiors. You can put what you want. You may have the best multimedia, but is that the car? Or the car is actually the chassis and the engine and how it's handling? One of the fact of life is, going ahead at some point of time, you'll only see electric vehicles or greener forms of vehicle, whether it is hydrogen driven or something else, new technology comes in. But I feel most of the people who love cars, they'll always drive the electric or whatever comes in the future, but they'll always say one thing, I'm missing that feel of a car that only comes with an engine, whether it's a diesel or an electric. When it comes to performance, there's something that we all know, when it comes to performance of the electric motor and all, it has a lot of torque. Right from standstill, it gives you a lot of torque. So all the supercar makers, they have been struggling, saying, okay, putting in a lot of R&D, we are putting in a lot of research, to break that barrier of saying, okay, 0 to 100 in less than 3 seconds, less than 2.5 seconds. But with an electric motor and research, it is easily possible. Most of the car manufacturers will be like, that is something that can be achieved. But it's all about the feel. And one thing is for sure, you will stop seeing them in the future. What I mean is the internal combustion engine at some point of time. So when the moment is right, I really want to enjoy it. I have it, so I would rather enjoy it at this point of time, because if I'm alive and 2050 we are sitting in a similar, once they grow up, it will be very difficult for them to understand what is an internal combustion engine, because they would be driving the electric vehicle, so they may not know something that we have gone through.